Hey guys, welcome back to another video at Jensen's Reptiles. Today we're not going to be talking about reptiles, we're going to be talking about snails. Forgive me guys, I am in the midst of a massive reptile room revamp, which you'll be seeing a lot of updates from next week onwards. It's really exciting, but I've also been insanely busy, so I haven't had a huge amount of time to be uploading videos, which was kind of annoying. So I'm back today with a albeit kind of quick one, but a couple of you had asked to see the snails, so I'm going to update you on these guys today and give some care tips and things like that. So I've got 4 giant African land snails in here. They are not so giant at the moment. You can see they're just having a bit of a chew on their salad at the moment. These snails are endemic to East Africa. They live for about 6 to 10 years depending, and they can get pretty big. So we're talking up to 20 centimeters, which for a snail, I'm sure you can agree, is pretty huge. As far as setup goes, any kind of plastic or glass type enclosure, so even an aquarium, does really well. I've got mine in this Exoterra faunarium with the lid there. The ventilation in this is actually a little bit too good, so I'm thinking of moving them into a spare glass enclosure probably next week. I'm going to explain a bit more about that in just a sec. So as far as lighting is concerned, these guys don't need any specific lighting. They do tend to come out a bit more at night. The main things that you want to make sure you do are provide them with a really good humidity and the right temperature. So in East Africa, it doesn't tend to get so cold, so you want to keep these snails between 20 and 25 degrees. I have mine on a heat mat with the probe going in there. The heat mat is actually underneath the faunarium on this heatproof board, so all of the heat is directed upwards rather than down into the vivarium underneath. But yeah, that keeps them nice and warm. I have it set to about 22. The only issue with the heat mat is that it does dry out the soil quite quickly. So if you want to slap it on the side of the enclosure, that's absolutely fine as well. Or if you do have an enclosure where you can put heat from above, that would actually be preferable. You're definitely going to want to spray down the tank at least once a day, but double check your humidity, check the dampness of the soil. These guys get most of their hydration from their food, so I like to provide a variety of food. They really love cucumber, which is great because it's full of water. I don't provide my snails with a water bowl. They can drown in a fairly small amount of water, but if you do want to give them a shallow water bowl, that's absolutely fine. They'll go and drink as and when they need to. I prefer to spray down the tank, and they have this feeding slate which they can drink off, and also they get a lot of hydration, as I said, from their food. Snails are really hardy, so I've learnt this recently because I made a bit of a mistake. I forgot to spray down the enclosure for just one day, and my largest snail, Sheldon, has sealed up. So I'm going to show you. So you can see the other 3 are out at the moment eating food. The other one's just behind there. Now Sheldon is over here. So Sheldon was my first ever giant African land snail, and has actually sealed up. That's quite firm there. Snails will do that when the conditions aren't quite right, so the others had just started to do it as well. Luckily caught it quite quickly, sprayed down the enclosure, gave them loads of fresh food, actually took everything out and rehydrated the soil, so it was really nice and damp, and then popped them back in. Another thing you can do is to just run them under some kind of tepid to warm water, and they'll usually pop right out again. I'm just going to let Sheldon do it naturally, and he should be out this evening with any luck. I'll just be keeping an eye on him. But don't worry if your snail does that. They're not dead. They're just waiting for better conditions to come along, so they're really hardy animals. You'll see anywhere you live when rain comes, out come the snails, so the rest of the time they're usually either just waiting or they're kind of sealed up like that. But I'd like for my snails to be having a really good time, so it's not ideal. But hopefully Sheldon's back out tonight with the other 3. But yeah, I like to provide them with a really nice variety of food, but they do tend to like courgette and cucumber the best. They had some strawberries last night, which they completely devoured, so I guess they like strawberries too. Yeah, so that is giant African land snails. They like to have a substrate that they can burrow into, which you want to provide, a couple of centimeters, depending on how big your snails are. I'm using the Arcadia Earth Mix. substrate, which is really great. It holds the water really nicely, so you get a slow release humidity with that heat mat underneath. I've also got some earthworms and some springtails added into this enclosure. So there are no plants in here, so there's nothing kind of using all of that fuel. But when I do take the substrate out, I can actually use it for a plant, perhaps in my garden or maybe a house plant, and it'll be really kind of enriched, nutritious soil at that point. If you don't have anything breaking down waste, you're going to want to clean out these enclosures I'd say every week. I think you can see here, right down there, that is snail poop. It's not very pleasant, but when you have worms in there, they will come through and they'll eat it and break it down into a matter that plants can use more efficiently for fuel. So as I said, when I clean this enclosure, I will take all the soil out and I will use it for a plant most likely, and they'll grow really nicely. So that's pretty much it as far as giant African land snails go. If you've got any questions, do let me know. Actually, there's one more thing before I've forgotten, and it's really important. These snails need a really good source of calcium, so you can either buy them a generic snail food, which has powdered calcium in it, or you can just get them a cuttlefish bone. So, as you can see from this one here, they've absolutely gone to town on it. It used to be kind of smooth, and yeah, they've gone through it. When they're eating it at night, it is the strangest, like, squeaking sound. But they love it, so you want to provide that for them, keep their shells nice and strong and healthy. So that is it. I'm done. As these guys grow, they'll get a slightly bigger enclosure, but as I said, I'm gonna probably upgrade them into a glass enclosure pretty soon. I will update you guys once I've done that, and I should be back next week with a whole load more videos, so stay tuned. Any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I will catch up with you guys soon.